Hello and welcome to Becoming Abundant podcast. I am your host, Anna Maria Jinga, and this is our side of the internet where we get to speak about true abundance, personal authority, emotional optimization, and the pure power of alignment, all while living in the presence and guidance of God Himself. I am a holistic coach and mentor focusing on healing the emotions keeping you stuck so that the mind and body can align and live a limitless life. We all have a mission and a purpose, and I am here to help you unchain from what's been holding you back to actually live in your full potential. Think of it as transformative triggering in the best possible way. The time has come to live a life you love. Let's dive in. Hello, my darlings. Welcome to another beautiful week of Becoming Abundant podcast. I am your host, Anna Jinga, and I welcome you again to sit back, join in, grab your notebook, and get ready to dive into a subject that is probably going to help you understand a little bit more about habits, connection to God as well, but also the things that might be keeping you stuck because certain things that we choose are not necessarily certain things that will help us. So today's topic, we get to talk about resistance and obedience. And this is actually a topic that came to me earlier this week where I was thinking a little bit more on what are we actually obedient to. I was reading a passage from the Bible that said, be obedient and humble to a certain degree. Now I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly the words that I was reading. But the thing that came to my mind was, yes, I'm working to be obedient to God, but at the same time, we as humans, we in this society, we in this space where we are engulfed in so much rapid movement, fast replies, fast rewards, everything is quick and superficial. We do not know exactly what we're obedient to because we want to rebel. We want to rebel against the system. We want to rebel against all sorts of things that are triggering us or annoying us or are inconvenient. But while we are rebelling against something, we're also obedient to something else. So this is something I want to talk to us this week about. When you think of obedience, what comes to your mind? For the longest time for me, obedience looked like I had to obey my parents, I had to obey my community, I had to obey society, I had to obey legislations and rules and the school and work and all these things that didn't sit well with my heart. Not everything aligned with my values, not everything aligned with what felt right for me. Most of the time, I found myself being obedient just because I didn't want to bother someone, or I was obedient because I didn't want to create too much chaos. And then the fire came out of me, this massive rage of, I want to fight back against obedience. So I started rebelling. But the more I rebelled, the more I felt like I was losing control over my own identity, the person that I actually was meant to be, because I was rebelling against all of these things just because the values that were being quote unquote offered to me words weren't resonating. But the thing was, I was constantly looking at rebelling, but I wasn't looking at what I was obedient on. Because whenever we are rebelling against something, we're obedient to something else. So when I was rebelling against the system and parents' rules and work and school and whatever I was rebelling against, I was obedient to the darkness. I was obedient to my anxiety. I was obedient to habits that were keeping me stuck, keeping me small, keeping me angry, keeping me all over the place, keeping me very uneasy, in a constant need to rebel. I was obedient to chaos. I was obedient to not taking care of myself. I was obedient to pushing back against food at one point because I didn't want to eat when I was told to eat. I didn't want to do the things that others were doing just because they were doing it, because I was so done obeying that I was rebelling. But then I became obedient to my misfortunes, my victimhood. I was obedient to the identity that was creating in the back of my mind that I am a victim, I am useless, I am not worthy of being loved, not worthy of being seen. I was obedient to the negative things. So when I realized that my obedience was to something negative, I didn't know where my obedience would go. So this leads me to the next question. When you think of your obedience right now, and you see maybe certain aspects of your obedience are in spaces of lack, you're obedient to lack, you're obedient to sacrifice without proper follow through, you're obedient to things that are not actually taking care of you long term. Maybe you're obedient to a church that doesn't feel right. Maybe you're obedient to a mentor that doesn't fully align with your values, but you don't want to bother them. What is that obedience actually teaching you? How to put yourself last, how to not make yourself a priority, how to not take care of yourself, how to not put boundaries, how to not show up in your best light, because then you wouldn't be obedient to the identity that you have indirectly accepted for yourself. So when we think of obedience, I can even tie it back to God. When we're obedient to God, we're rebelling against the world. When we're obedient with God's mission for us, we will fight back against the principalities of the world. We will fight back against the things that are not aligning with our true values of being loved and kind and gentle and guiding and present. So we get to rebel against all of the things that are pushing us out of our God-given right to take space. So another thing that I would love for you to ponder on and maybe journal is, what are you rebelling against? Let's dive into that for a moment. We love to rebel when we're teenagers. We love to rebel when we find things that feel cool, maybe feel on the edge of dangerous. The bad boys, bad experiences, bad, 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 bad. The rock and roll style, the rock and roll lifestyle. When we are in that space of rebellion, when we're in that space of constantly rebelling against things just because they're the norm, or they're too mainstream for us as teenagers. We love to rebel because we want to push our boundaries. But sometimes we rebel so much when we become adults that we forget even to put boundaries. So when you're thinking of rebellion, what areas of your life do you have? Are you following more of a rebellion follow through? What areas of your life are you accepting to rebel in? Maybe it's your sleep. And I'll give you an example. I have a client that says to me one day, "Hey, I absolutely love when my kids go to sleep because then I get my phone, I get my snacks, I sit on the couch, and I don't do anything and no one needs me." But then I ask her, isn't that you rebelling against your sleep? Yes, but when would I have time for myself? And that's when I invited her to think, okay, when you think of you're rebelling against your sleep, then you wake up in the morning and feel completely horrible because you didn't get enough sleep. So then you go into this never ending cycle of being angry and tired and overstimulated during the day with your kids, with your work, with your husband, with the community where you're in. And then you feel like, okay, the evening's coming, the kids are going back to sleep, and your nervous system is like, hey, 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 I actually want to wind down, but not go to sleep because I still want to feel like I'm in some sort of control over my life. So let's sit again on the couch, scroll through social media, watch another show, do all the things that feel rewarding because they give you a quick fix. Because during the day, you didn't know how to put certain boundaries, you didn't know how to ask for help. You didn't know how to put yourself first for a moment. You didn't know how to balance certain things. And then you find yourself in the same spot over and over and over again because you are rebelling against your sleep. So I sat with her for a moment and we thought, okay, what would it look like for you to be obedient with your sleep? And she said, I would put boundaries around when I go sleep, when I wake up, when I rest with my kids, when I take breaks during the day and not push through whenever I'm tired, when I can manage how I show up for certain clients. Maybe I can put some of my energetic clients in the day and then in the evening just wind down with the kids so that I can feel also connected. I can find ways to invite certain people, maybe play dates, have the kids dropped off. So we had a certain plan going on because sometimes when we're trying to rebel in order to gain back some control over our lives, over our well being, over our mental state, we discover that we tend to forget that we're obedient to something else. So when I invited her to put these things together, this conversation actually happened about 2 weeks ago. She's already seeing results where she doesn't feel like she needs to rebel against her sleep at night. She finds it so easy to have time for herself during the day, during the week. She has started scheduling time away from kids and with kids at the same time. She shifted her schedule a little bit around clients that are more energetic during the first part of the day when she has more energy, so that in the evening she doesn't feel so drained. So, all of these things are to tell you, to remind you, to help you look into your own life and see, hey, what are you actually rebelling against that you should be obedient to? And what is that rebellion of yours making you obedient to something else that might be doing a disservice to you? Because in my client's case, she was actually obedient to not sleeping. She was obedient to her identity of overstimulated and overtired stay at home mom, stay at home, work from home mom. She was obedient to the identity of more of a victimhood mentality. She was obedient and very diligent at taking on every single task, even though a quarter of the tasks that she needed to do would be able to be offloaded to her assistant or asked for help from her mother in law or from her husband or from her neighbors who she always has play dates with. So there are things within your schedule that you might be able to shift. Maybe you're able to take on less certain weeks and then more other weeks. Because also, side note, as women, we run through cycles of energy every month. It's far different from men. But that's a topic for another time, where I actually will need to tell you all about how wanting to be like men for women is doing a complete disservice to your nervous system and way of life. But that's a story for another episode. Mental note, I need to record that too. Yes, yes. But now, my darlings, when you think of rebellion and obedience, what does obedience even sound like, feel like, and look like to you? Think of this. When I was, here's a story. When I was younger, and even a few years ago, when I heard the term, the concept of obedience, I wanted to scream and run in the opposite direction, because I always saw obedience as being sacrificing my freedom. Being obedient meant for me to always sit small and act a certain way just to please others. And for me, it was horrible. It always sounded like I needed to sacrifice me in order to make others happy. It always sounded like if I'm obedient even to God, back when I was rebelling against God, if I would be obedient to God, I wouldn't be able to have a happy life, a free life, a life of fulfillment and achievements, because in my locked mind, in my concept back then, I thought that God wanted me to just sit small, do nothing, and just do small jobs and be small, because that was my model of women growing up, that women didn't do much. They were only either working in factories and taking care of the kids and never speaking up, never holding space, never taking up more energy and being more than just a housewife with a job, with 7 to 3 job, because that was Romania. Yes, yes. The thing is that obedience is far from the truth, because now, fast forward to present day Anna, my obedience right now to God, to my husband, to my family, to my community, to you guys looks very different. My obedience to my husband, for example, looks like we get to take care of each other. I give him space when he needs space. I'm present when he needs me. I'm able to take care of our cooking, our family, our clothes, our cleaning, all of the things that are part of the housewife duties, but not from a place of, oh, I have to do this, but from a place of, we have so many blessings and we have so much abundance of things that make our life feel great, that it's it's an honor, it's a blessing for me to take care of things, because I love things to be well taken care of. That looks like obedience. When we think of obedience in God, is me showing up every morning, having a conversation with God, me showing up in the evening, learning how to, for example, learning how to say the creed in English, because when I first learned the creed, side note, for those who don't know what the creed is, the creed is a contract that, I might be wrong, but we'll go with it, that the Apostle Peter has put together for all Christians to learn as a contract and commitment to pray in order to dedicate their souls and lives to Christ. And I learned it in Romanian when I was back in my home country, because we learned religion as a school subject. So we learned all sorts of prayers, we learned all sorts of history, and so on. So part of my learning that version of Christianity in school was that we got to learn uh, completely the creed, which has helped me more times than none, because it's such a strong prayer that it keeps demons away. Mm. But circling back is that my obedience to God now looks like I'm learning the creed in English as well, because I want to teach it to my son. I'm learning how to memorize more Bible verses and sit with Bible verses for more than just, 10 minutes and then skip them, to see the history behind them, the energy behind them, the lessons and the teachings behind every verse, and how those certain verses might apply to my life as well. So there are many ways that I am obedient to God. And when we think of how I'm obedient to you guys, to my community, I show up, I create space for you to communicate with me. I share my messages. I share not only the podcast itself, but I share in our Facebook community all sorts of questions and insights. I go live whenever I have something bigger to talk to you guys about. I create posts that are helping you grow in your faith and in your abundance, so that it's not just me growing in my own way, but I get to share this whole journey with you. That is how I am obedient to you guys as well. When I'm obedient to myself and my self care and ways of taking care of things, I take care of what I'm eating, how much I'm sleeping, how I'm moving my body, how to put boundaries around how much I'm around people, because certain times of the month, certain days of, depending on what we're doing, if we're traveling or not, I might not have the energy to be 6, 8, 12 hours around people all the time. I need to wind down, I need to rest, because that is how my body functions. My nervous system likes quiet time. So I'm obedient to the signals that my body also give me, so I can understand and learn what do I need. And being obedient shifted from being a victim in my mind to being empowered. And that is a massive shift for me, because now when I'm obedient, I'm in control. Now when I'm obedient, I'm more capable, I'm more organized, I'm more aligned, I'm more in tune. When I'm obedient and not rebelling against myself, I have more personal authority, more emotional mastery, more alignment with my mission, my voice, my truth. I'm more on brand. I'm more on call. I don't skip a beat. I'm here. I'm able. I'm capable. I'm the leader that you guys need. So, my question to you guys this week is actually a couple of questions. One, what does obedience sound like, feel like, and look like to you guys? What's the belief that you have around obedience? And two, where do you need, what area of your life do you need more clear obedience in? I'm really curious about your guys' messages, because this has been something that I've been working on for myself for the past week, around obedience, about around rebellion, around understanding that what I've been doing is not just self-care for me. It's being obedient to the temple of the Holy Spirit. That is like blew my damn mind when I thought about it. And now I'll just correct myself, because I want you to also understand the power of languaging. It is not damn mind. It blew my mind. Because if we use damn, I had another big epiphany this week. I'll actually tell you the story now just because it feels good. I realized this week, as I was talking to a dear friend of mine and client, and we got to meet this week, which was amazing to actually finally meet in person. As I was telling her the story of my baptism and the way that becoming abundant came to life and what it actually means, that the abundant part of becoming abundant is not becoming wealthy in financial ways, actually far from it. The wealth is a byproduct of the alignment of becoming abundant in God, in God's mission for you, becoming abundant in your personal authority, emotional mastery, awareness, all of those things. So when I was telling her how becoming abundant came to life and how things shifted and aligned, I also realized and pinpointed the moment when what I believe was a demon inhabiting me for from when I was like 6 or 7 up until last year when I had my baptism, that was feeding me the paranoia, the fear, the panic, the anxiety that literally stopped and drowned in that water last year. So the thing is, this is why I'm telling you, I'm inviting you, I'm reminding you to be very aware of how you speak. Because the language that we use, such as I said earlier, damn mind, because it was such a habit to say that. So I stopped myself because my mind is not damned. My mind is free now. My mind belongs to God. My mind is filled with the Holy Spirit, and so is yours. So the thing is, please watch out for the languaging that you use because that is also a door, a crack in the door that can let the enemy in to control you. And we do not want that. We want to have constant full hedge of protection, full armor of God, full alignment, full authority, because we are God's kingdom on earth. So, my loves, I'll leave you with that, my beautiful darlings. I'm looking forward to hearing your messages, reading your emails. Please send them at info@becomingabundant.net. Thank you so much for tuning in to another fabulous week of Becoming Abundant podcast. And remember, my loves, to always, in always, stay salty and bright. Until next week, bye now.